Hello and welcome back to Sabbatical Stories. I'm your host Bex Thomas and I created this podcast to inspire courage and normalise taking a break from your career. If you find these stories valuable, I would love it if you could help by subscribing, liking and rating the show. It really does mean a lot. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by Isabel, whose story is an absolute belter of a reason why companies should offer sabbatical programmes to retain talent. After moving from Australia to the UK, she realised life wasn't really turning out how she anticipated. She craved adventure, a stronger connection with her Latin roots, a chance to challenge her Spanish, and also the opportunity to build a network of global friends. So she took a sabbatical. Her journey shows that when companies give their people the space to grow, explore and recharge, they don't lose them, they retain them, stronger than ever. Deep down, you've tried deep, deep, search wide, enjoy your climb, it's all for you. Hi Izzy, welcome to Sabbatical Stories. It's so wonderful to have you here and wonderful to be recording with somebody in the same time zone. It's often that I'm recording with individuals traveling, or you're in Amsterdam today and I'm in France, so same time zone. So welcome.
Thank you, Bex. It's an honor to be here and I'm hoping that the stories I share can really resonate with people, and I didn't even realize you were in the Central European time zone, so this works perfectly.
Yeah, doesn't it? And look, as it's exactly that, your story, could you please give an introduction to Izzy and your sabbatical story, please?
Yes, of course. So my name is Izzy, and maybe based on the accent, you can tell I'm from Australia. Born and raised in Sydney and lived most of my life there. I am no stranger to living abroad, however. When I was 16, I did an exchange in Italy to learn Italian. I've lived in Spain to do a Spanish exchange and learn Spanish as part of my heritage when I was at university. And then basically 2 years into me working in Sydney, I moved with my job to London to experience living in England. And then recently this year, I've moved to Amsterdam to try a different country. So I'm definitely a wanderlust girl. I love moving around and experiencing new cultures and languages and just getting to know new people that are very different, have different backgrounds and stories. A big item on my list in terms of my bucket list was going to Latin America. Obviously, Latin America is somewhere that you need time. It's not a trip that you can do 3 or 4 weeks. And so I did think a sabbatical was appropriate to take that big journey. At the end of last year, I took a 4-month sabbatical through Latin America. A few different reasons why I did that. It was honestly one of the most amazing experiences of my life, something I won't forget. And it just came at the perfect time in my life. And yeah, it really kind of opened a lot of doors for me. And I'm really excited to share that story today.
You mentioned that it was a sabbatical. So I'm assuming that you've gone back to your current company, that you actually took a break in service with them, but actually returned to the same company. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So interesting, I think, to the audience are always a couple of things. The first is you mentioned around being on the bucket list, but a couple of items that really drove you to taking that break. What were the accumulating factors to actually you deciding to take that break there?
So kind of as I mentioned, obviously a break to go to Latin America, that is going to need time. So I guess the options for me were either need to leave my job and do this trip or look into a sabbatical. Other driving factors was I guess my experience in England wasn't what I had imagined in terms of kind of life there. I basically moved over with a partner, and that was kind of a last minute plan, which I guess changed the course of the adventure in England a little bit. And 6 months before I was planning to take this sabbatical, we ended the relationship. And although that wasn't a driving factor, I was still always keen on the sabbatical, keen on going to Latin America. It kind of came at a perfect time because I did realize that I needed time for myself. I needed to be away from my comfort zone. I needed to be away from my friends that I knew, not in terms of not the fact that they did anything wrong. I wanted to be challenged. I wanted to brave the sabbatical alone as well. And I felt like it was such an amazing growth opportunity. And I felt like in England, even though it was a new adventure, it's very typical for a lot of Australians to move over. So I did feel like I was kind of in Sydney, but across the world. So you probably understand.
I've done it, but the other way around.
Yeah. So I just felt I just needed to get away and do something completely different, something that really pushed me. I have Latin background, so I studied Spanish, as I mentioned, and I thought that going to Latin America would be even another amazing opportunity to kind of enhance my Spanish language. And obviously across Latin America, Spanish is spoken very differently. And I'd learned in Madrid, so that's a completely different Spanish as well. So there was a lot of kind of driving factors. And whenever I've kind of met Latin Americans, I've always found their culture so inviting and so passionate. And it felt like home when I was in Spain. And I knew I would get that sense going to Latin America as well. And I just thought the people were so warm, so friendly, so beautiful, so welcoming. And obviously you've got this, some of the seven wonders of the world in Latin America, Machu Picchu, the Amazon rainforest, you've got Patagonia, these incredible landscapes that, the photos don't do it justice. So there was just a lot of driving factors for me. And I guess I would say I'm a little bit spiritual as well. And I feel like South America is a place where you can really, really look within. Yeah, just being so far away from everything that you know. So there were quite a number of factors, and I had a lot of people say to me, and keep in mind these were people that had never been to Latin America, and obviously the perception is of that early 2000s drug cartels, Colombia, very dangerous vibe. I had so many people tell me, like, don't go, like, that's so unsafe, like a female traveling alone in Latin America, like, are you crazy? My parents tried to get me to cancel. I had, some of my bosses in England say, like, are you going to be safe? Like, this is crazy. Keep in mind, all the people that were saying this were people that hadn't been before. I'm really glad I didn't listen to them, because the experience I had was not what they were telling me. And obviously you exercise caution wherever you go, but it was not the dangerous, scary drug trafficking South America. Obviously that does exist, but the places you're traveling and kind of what you're doing is not dangerous, and you've just got to be smart.
But you have to be in central London.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. There's parts of London where I felt more unsafe than I did in, Medellin, Colombia. So it's just the perception is very skewed versus the actuality of being there.
How did you land on taking a sabbatical rather than leaving your job?
This was quite a back and forth adventure for me last year. And I'd been with the same company for about 5 years now. And I'd done the Australian office, I'd done the UK office. A big part of me wanted to move back to Madrid, keep speaking Spanish, keep learning Spanish, and work for a Spanish company. The problem was my company doesn't have an office in Spain. So the funny story is I actually had resigned from my job because we had to give 3 months notice. But then kind of upon deliberation, and obviously you don't want to be searching for jobs in a foreign country when you're traveling. Like I wanted to enjoy my sabbatical. I don't know what happened, but I think along my travels and in Europe as well, I'd met a lot of Dutch people. I've always loved their vibe. I've always found them very fun, and like they know how to have fun, but they're so respectful and they're so open. I'd visited the Netherlands a few times across my travels over the years, and I've always loved being here. I feel like in a way it's kind of like Australia in a sense, obviously not in terms of the weather, but just in terms of people are quite open. It's quite a chill lifestyle. They're very like sustainable, and my company does have an office in Amsterdam. So I thought, why am I rushing to resign? Why don't I explore the option of moving to Amsterdam? So basically there was a few internal discussions. It happened quite quickly, but it turns out that Amsterdam could offer me a position when I got back. So it was kind of a perfect win-win situation. Like, I come back with a job in a new country. So I leave England, go on sabbatical for 4 months, and then I get to start a new adventure in the Netherlands. So it kind of was just a perfect situation. And I think if I had quit my job and gone on sabbatical, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much, because I would have been stressed about finding a new job, having that income back. And you want to be able to spend your money and enjoy without worrying when you're traveling. I think my tenure at the company helped as well. And obviously those internal relationships I had some really great managing directors kind of bat for me on the England side. Obviously they didn't want me to go. They were like, we would rather have you internally transfer someone else than lose you to the company. So I had a few of the MDs supporting me there and really pushing for that. Yeah, they managed to kind of contact Amsterdam and get me that role in Amsterdam, and while also allowing me to take a sabbatical. So I've been so grateful for that.
Was it based on a sabbatical policy, or like how did that work with the company? Because I know that a lot of the audience listening, if they're in a role and with a company, it's around navigating that policy and how to ask for it, how to approach it. What was your situation?
Basically that year they had introduced a sabbatical, I think they already had a sabbatical, but they had introduced a new policy where you could take up to 4 months with, I think, 20% pay. So it was more of an incentive for people to take sabbaticals.
Okay.
So that policy got introduced. So obviously that was something that I'd heard about through our office meetings. Then some fellow colleagues had started to take sabbaticals, and they would tell me about their experiences and say it's an amazing thing. Like, it's pretty easy to get approvals. You just fill out a form, talk to your HR representative, obviously talk to your people manager, so your immediate team. It was dependent on projects. So if you're on like a really intense project, then you would have to, maybe you could still take it, but you would just have to negotiate timings. And it was just really a no-brainer, really. Like, it just made sense. And you do need to just ask around. Like, don't be afraid. Don't just ask HR, ask your people lead, ask your fellow colleagues, ask around, and don't be afraid to, because the policy exists for a reason, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And unless you're asking those questions of being curious, you may never know. Your intent was very much to push yourself out of this comfort zone, which naturally obviously comes with travel through Latin America. But what were any other sort of intentions for your period of time off, so your 4 months? And what did you do whilst you were traveling to satisfy those?
Yeah, so what do I actually want to get out of this? I'm investing a lot of money and time, and my life is going through a very key transition period at the moment with, coming out of a breakup, moving countries again, and not just moving from Australia, my home, I'm moving from a foreign country to another foreign country. So there was a lot going on, and I really took the time to write down, what do I want out of this sabbatical? So key one obviously was improve my fluidity of Spanish, which I mentioned before. So it was a language goal. Another one was learning to deal with stress better. So find small mechanisms to kind of cope with that. So maybe things like breath work, yoga. I did do a yoga retreat in Nicaragua to kind of enhance that. So part of the sabbatical was also training and learning rather than just traveling around. I wanted some skills out of it as well. Maintaining my health and fitness. And I feel like South America was a good place for that. Obviously, you've got a lot of hiking and natural landscapes. I wanted less time on my phone and to be more present. That was a bit more challenging, I think, especially when you're traveling alone and you don't have friends to bounce off. Other intentions were just basic things such as stay safe, like just make sure you're safe. Like, I want to get back to my family.
Don't end up caught up in a cartel.
Yeah, ideally not in jail in Colombia. So that was a goal.
Keep hold of all bags at all times.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't have any problems, but a key problem was when you check in your bag. Some of the baggage handlers like to go through your stuff, and that happened a few times. I would notice my bag a bit disheveled. So I'd always keep my possessions on, like obviously my phone, as you do, your phone, your wallet, if you have a laptop, which I didn't. Yeah, I had a speaker stolen out of my checking bag. I got to Chile. So yeah, that was probably the worst thing that happened.
Were they locked, your bag?
No, they weren't, but my carry-on was, but my check-in just had mostly my clothes. But I had noticed a few times when I picked it up that it was in disarray.
Somebody had gone through it.
Yeah. That's not uncommon in Latin America. When I left Colombia, they put a note in my bag saying, we've gone through your bag. But I think that's more so because they don't really care what's coming into Colombia. They care what's going out of Colombia. So bags are checked very rigorously leaving Colombia, as you would imagine.
That's a great top tip. I had no idea.
Yeah, top tip for South America. Anything that's worth anything, even speakers, keep on you.
Have on you.
Carry on, and any check-in, just clothes. Yeah. My final intention was don't forget what's important. So, and that could, family, friends, spirituality, me time, like things like that. It was more so a testament to reflection, and use this time to think about your life and reflect on the past year and think about what you want for the next year. As I touched on, last year was just crazy emotional roller coaster, so many changes, and South America was this period of my life where it was a healing period. And when I got back to Australia after my trip, it felt like I was like a little butterfly emerging from a cocoon again, because I'd been through a lot of friendship changes, I'd been through a breakup, I'd been to countries again. Just so much was on my plate in 2024 that coming out of my South South America trip, I just felt like a completely different person. And yeah, I was me again, essentially.
Amazing.
One of the quotes I have in my journal that I wrote was just before I left for the trip, was, "It's my time to step away and relinquish the stresses of urban life. A chance to feel completely free, bound to no work or responsibility, just me." So I wrote that right before I left, and that was the intention I carried throughout the sabbatical.
And how did you keep yourself true to those whilst you were away?
I journaled a lot. So I brought a journal with me, and obviously you're not going to feel, not every day is this like, oh my God, amazing, like traveling, like, you don't feel like that every day, especially when you're alone. I had days where I didn't want to go out. I just wanted to stay in and not be social. And you do get that traveler's guilt with you because you're like, oh, I'm wasting a day. Like, I should be out there. I should be talking to people, should be seeing new things. But how I kept grounded was whenever I felt like that, I journaled. I wrote my thoughts down, got my thoughts out. And other times I would just pretend like I was in a normal routine. I pretended I was back in Australia or I was back in England or wherever I was living. And I would go to the gym, I would go to the grocery store and like buy groceries and go cook myself a meal. And I would pretend like I'm living in Cusco and, I would be cooking a meal for myself and just watching some binge TV. So when you travel for that long, you do need those days where you're just a normal human. You don't need to feel like you have to go out every day and meet new people, especially when you're alone, because you're constantly having those conversations of where are you from? Like, what do you do? Like, you're kind of starting from square zero, and it's exhausting to do that every day. So I had times where I just stayed in and just pretended to be a normal person for a day just to reset.
Yeah, 100% agree. Travel burnout, I think they call it.
Yes.
And it's real. I mean, you mentioned the traveller's guilt around wanting to see everything and wanting to do everything. I've certainly experienced guilt when it comes down to, you want to rest, you just want to be that normal human lounging, watching a movie or cooking dinner in. And there's a slight guilt that tinges that you sort of think, goodness, I'm so lucky to be doing this. Other people are living Groundhog Day, going to work and, in corporate, whatever. And I'm feeling tired or there's that. And I think it's just allowing yourself to understand that is normal and to be able to lean into that. And I think having a quote, I haven't heard that before of any of the guests we've had on, but I think having that quote that you've just read out and taking that with you every single day is a wonderful way of staying grounded and staying true to that. And if you've got those intentions written down, I can only imagine that alleviates some of the guilt, because actually what you're doing is you're being true to the intentions you set out. You mentioned that you were a very different person when you returned to Australia and you felt like you were, this butterfly emerging. But also in another sentence, you mentioned that you almost found you again. So just talk us through the identity shift or fluidity that happened pre-break, during break, and then post-break.
I guess, as I mentioned, I was feeling quite lost in myself towards like the end, I guess like last year in 2024 before I took my break. And as I mentioned, I had a lot of stuff on my plate, and not just kind of the relationship stuff from a friendship and a dating perspective, but more so the logistics of moving all your stuff out of a country and that logistics, that all that stuff was quite a big weight. And I just felt really distant from who I was as a person, because I was just so overrun with different emotions that I was going through, and I was just confused. And I felt like a lot of my friendships were people from home. And of course I have some great British friends, but I think a big part of me that has always felt this way, always felt it in my gut, was I want more of that international, well-rounded friendship experience. And I feel like England was just more so, the Aussies and the Brits, which is amazing. They're fantastic friends. But, I think when I envisioned living abroad, it was more so, I thought it was going to be more of an international experience. So I think I was just a bit confused being in England and London, kind of like that cold Sydney I was referring to. So I was just like, I need to get out of here. Like, I need to make a change because I'm not reaching my full potential. During my sabbatical, obviously you're meeting people from all around the world. It kind of showed me like there is more to the world than just what you've experienced being in England or Australia. And I think the type of travelers that go to South America are more mature travelers, more experienced, more daredevil, adventurous. I met some like amazing people from all around the world, and funny story, but one of them lost my WhatsApp, so we were in contact via WhatsApp. They had paid for my bill at this hotel I was staying at, this eco lodge, because my card wasn't working, but then I just transferred the money. When I moved to the Netherlands, my WhatsApp changed from my UK number to my Netherlands number, so this person didn't have my number and they were trying to get in contact with me. And then basically a month ago, I found these payments, these transactions on my Wise account, and this person had sent me 3 sets of 10 cents and had a description saying, "Hi, this is X from Guatemala.
No way!
I've been trying to contact you. I'm back in the EU." And then the final payment was their number to be like, contact, like message me. Like,
I love it.
It was.
Because the only thing they had
Was my Wise.
Was your payment details,
yeah.
Because of that transaction from the eco lodge. Wow.
Yeah. Incredible. And since then I've met up with this person and we've hung out. They're based in Berlin, so I actually went to Berlin like 2 weeks ago to see them, and it was just hilarious.
How resourceful.
Yeah, I was like,
I'd want to know what he does for a job.
Yeah. Just so smart, so ingenious, and so
yeah
great.
And also a lesson to check your Wise account often. There could be some long lost friend trying to get in touch with you. That is a brilliant tip.
It was brilliant. It was so nice, and since then we've been able to reconnect and hang out and share cultures. As they're from Germany and obviously I'm from Australia, and I met people on my trip who were Dutch as well, so I've reconnected with them here in the Netherlands. And the emerging from that cocoon, as I kind of touched on, was more so the network I had around me and the more international network that I have now, and my ability to be able to practice like new languages and share cultures it's been really amazing to have that here in the Netherlands. And I got definitely a big snapshot of that when I was traveling through Latin America. It's been a lot easier to meet an international network here, and I don't think I have two of the same culture like here. It's we've got Slovakia, Italy, Spain, Colombia, Australia, South Africa. Like all my friends are just such a melting pot, and
wow.
Awesome. I feel this is where I'm supposed to be.
I love that. And it sounds as though from a diversity of cultures and that sort of friendship network globally, the move and also the sabbatical has been a real success. How did the sabbatical itself and post live up to the objectives you set?
It definitely blew my mind. Like they exceeded my expectations, and obviously I'd heard incredible things about Latin America, but I think Latin America possesses such a special healing power, being such an ancient continent. You've got the Incas, you've got the Aztecs in Mexico, you've got the Incas of Peru, you've got these incredible histories in South America. It just exceeded my expectations so much, and I think experiencing it alone as well really pushed me. And I think it makes people talk to you more, because I think if you're in a group of people, you're less like a group of girls, for example, it's more intimidating for people to come up to you and
totally
start talking. So I think being alone was much easier to talk to people, and it really exceeded my expectations. And I think how I planned it was such a diversity in what I did as well. So I started in Texas and Tennessee, then I went down to Argentina, so it was such like a difference in climate, it was a difference in culture, you're bringing hiking boots, but then you're also bringing these like waterproof pants because I'm going into the jungle, I'm going to the Amazon. So and then also I had a cowgirl hat for Texas or Tennessee, so it was just such a diversity in what I did, and I just met some amazing people. So it really did exceed my expectations, and I would encourage anybody, if they have the time, to visit South America and Central America, because it's truly got a special healing power that I can't explain. It's something that you just have to experience.
It's certainly on my bucket list. I have done Rio Carnival, and that is it when it comes to South America. So yeah, as you've touched on, so you're now obviously back to what we would class as BAU and back in work. How have you taken the objectives and lessons learnt from your time away into now what we class as normal life?
Yeah, I think a really important thing for me was to kind of maintain those connections I made when I was traveling. So whether they're based in Amsterdam or wherever, meet up with them, talk to people I met. I've got a few Latin American friends here in Amsterdam as well. So just keeping up with Spanish, ask them about their culture because I still want to kind of hold on to that experience. I made it very intentional when I first moved into my room in Amsterdam that I said, I'm going to print off the top photos from my trip because I want to remember what that experience was. So I've pasted them all over my wall in my room. My intention was I want to be constantly reminded of this trip. It was an incredible experience and it's left me even more open. I'm already a very open person, but just made me so much more open. Coming into Amsterdam, I felt, I just wanted to learn more because once I think you start to see more of the world, it just it unlocks your interest even more. You just want to know more about the world. And the Dutch culture was something that I didn't know much about. So it's made me very open to learning about the Dutch culture and learning the language as well. Dutch is super hard compared to Spanish. So,
and are you learning Dutch now?
Yeah, that klopt.
Wow, good for you.
It's very hard. I'm a Latin-based language girl, but I am studying at the moment. And I think Latin America definitely kind of accelerated that interest and said, anything is possible. Like it's not impossible to do this. I was scared about Latin America, about achieving it and being safe. I was scared for months before I left. And then when I got to the Netherlands, it's like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do Dutch. Like it's going to be super hard. But I've started that journey with learning it and it's getting easier every time. Like I even just listen to conversations and you pick up on things. So I think, Latin America really, really accelerated that, as well as, I guess, just making me appreciate like the small things, just the small little things like text from your mom or kind of how beautiful the flowers look on the street. It's just those small appreciations of nature, which you definitely get when you're in South America, given it's just incredible landscapes. And Bex, if you ever need tips, I'm your girl.
I will. For sure. I love the photos from a memory perspective. I've spoken to a couple of people who, one, they've got a sabbatical room. So they came back to their house and they basically created a room where they've got a meditation corner. They've got, photos from their trips. They've got all of the souvenirs that they brought back out, so that if they ever feel like they need to get back to that person, they go and sit in their sabbatical room.
I love that.
I think it was Jackson uses things, there's smells and things like that he sort of uses to, again, if he needs to get back to that person, he uses a certain soap or a certain deodorant or something like that because it reminds him of that time.
Yeah.
And there's two things that you mentioned. One, remembering the small things. So my question is, how do you keep yourself accountable to do that? And then the other is the connections, because it's very easy for days to go by. How do you keep yourself accountable to withhold those connections?
In a work perspective, it's about setting boundaries. My company is a company that, doesn't require like late nights typically. So I think just keeping those boundaries, that balance between life and work. I don't live to work, I work to live. So I think when I was on my sabbatical, I kind of thought you need to kind of keep that separate. So when I leave the office, it's like, that's it for the day. Like I'm going back to me, Izzy, and journaling has always been something that keeps me grounded. So I go back to that journaling, something I did almost every day when I was on sabbatical. So that really brings me back. I've really gotten into incense as well. So I am a smell girl. So I have incense at home, which kind of reminds me of like yoga retreat I went on, or just the nice smells and the calming nature of Latin America. Connections wise, I am a very social person, so I don't need too much motivation for that. But for example, I was just in America and I met someone in Patagonia in Argentina who's from America. He lives in Detroit and we went to New York for a weekend and he drove from Detroit to New York to hang out with me and my sister.
Wow, amazing.
If you're traveling to somewhere where you've met somebody on your travels, like I'll always make sure I message them and say, let's meet up. I'd love to see you. And I think you pick up on that vibe pretty quickly. So connections is obviously, it can be hard when they live far away or there's different time zones, but I do remember these people. And if I am traveling to that country or that place, I message them and say, let's hang out, let's get a drink. And Instagram is a huge network at the moment, so it's so easy to reach out to that person and say, what are you doing? Or you see their story and you go, okay, they're doing this, like I'll reply to it. So I think social media has been a massive platform for that. And I think you just know people you want to hang out with, right? It's that vibe that you get. So yeah, I think the key things: set boundaries for your life and work, but in between life and work. Go back to journaling. So always any practice that is grounding for you. I really like that that sabbatical room. That's a fantastic idea. And maintenance of connections in however you do it, whether that's calling somebody or texting them or replying to their story or just reaching out. Like however you do that is important.
It's funny, isn't it? Social media gets a bad rap, but I couldn't agree more with regards to knowing where you are in the world. And when you're traveling, I've got numerous stories where I've put something on my stories of where I am and somebody's seen it and gone, oh my God, you're in Paris? What? So am I. And so you meet up. Or I see that somebody's in Ho Chi Minh City and I'm like, what? The actual? Yes. And then meeting up. Like, it's absolutely magic when that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the other point around boundaries, it's a super interesting one. And I have recently had Neela on the podcast from Wander Global, and she was talking about integration techniques, and her 2 top tips. One was very much having a vision, because if we have a big vision, then you have something that you could sort of maintain accountability towards and be working towards. But her second was around ensuring that sacred time, what she calls sacred time, is laced throughout your week when you get back from your sabbatical. And I think that plays into your point around boundaries and having that sacred time, and it being time that fills you with joy and time that grounds you back to that period of time in your life, or as you say, being Izzy again. So look, thank you ever so much for coming on and sharing your story. Before we close, is there anything that you think potentially we haven't covered that the audience would be interested in hearing?
Yeah, so I wrote a few, I guess, like takeaways just to kind of reiterate a few things that I took away from my sabbatical, and I hope that this resonates with the audience. So number 1 is, I think there's never going to be an 100% perfect time to take a career break and explore the world. So people just need to, take the leap. Obviously, you need to be financially prepared. You can't just go with no money. Obviously, there needs to be some kind of planning around it. But I think there's always going to be reasons not to go. And I guess that links back to, the safety conversations that my parents had with me, saying, no, really, it's causing us a lot of stress. Like, we don't want you to go. Can you cancel? So that was always something that kind of plays on your mind as well, and you go, okay, is this actually going to be safe? So there's always going to be reasons not to go. And when are you going to get that time back, right? Like, when are you going to have this time to just remove yourself from BAU and just do exactly what you want to do and see what you've always wanted to see? And it doesn't have to be about traveling and partying. It's also about education and teaching yourself. I did a Spanish course in Colombia to kind of sharpen those skills. You can do a lot of things that aren't just traveling. It can be about upskilling as well. My second tip was never be afraid to do it alone. Don't wait for other people to align their plans with yours. The most personal growth happens outside of the comfort zone. And yes, traveling is scary alone, but you'll find there are so many people in the same boat, especially in South America and Southeast Asia. Those continents and those places are built for solo travelers. So you are going to find like-minded people. And the final one was make sure you document your adventure, as we've touched on. Defining some goals and objectives for your sabbatical at the outset. These adventures don't come around often, so cherish those memories and share your experiences with the world. And I guess this is kind of what we're doing on the podcast. Those are my 3 kind of key tips for people looking to do a sabbatical. And I would just highly encourage it, and choose somewhere that you've always wanted to go, and choose somewhere that you're gravitated towards, that you have a connection or you're interested in history of, or you wanted language skills. And yeah, just don't wait for anyone to do it. It's the key thing for me.
Brilliant 3 top tips to end on. Thank you so much, Izzy. And if people have any questions or want to pick your brains on Latin America or sabbaticals in general, where's the best place to find you and connect with you?
I actually have a travel Instagram that I made separate from my personal account. So it has some of my South America trip, and it's got tips and tricks. So I can send those across to you. I'm so more than happy to connect with people who are interested. I do have a spreadsheet as well. I do have an Excel.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
As a management consultant, of course you've got a spreadsheet. Yeah.
But email or Instagram is perfect.
Yeah, great. And we'll put those all in the show notes. But thank you so much, Izzy. It sounds like a tremendous success and, you know, an incredible sabbatical. So all kudos to you for, you know, making it happen and really making a success out of it. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thank you for having me.
Deep down, you try, dig deep, search wide. Thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate each and every one of you being here. A massive thanks to Isabel for coming on and sharing her story. From questioning life in the UK to deepening her roots in Latin America and then stepping into a brand new exciting role in Amsterdam. Her journey is living proof of why sabbatical programmes aren't just good for employees, but for companies too. If you'd like to connect with Isabel, I'll put all of her details in the show notes below. As always, a special thank you to Auntie B at the Flaxen, my incredible, patient and talented producer, and also to Nikki from the Flaxen, who joins us this season to bring the show to life on social media. Plus a big shout out to Joe Cook, whose soulful vocals we're lucky enough to feature throughout the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and rate the show. And if you know somebody who needs to hear Isabel's story, then send it their way. It really does help to get the stories out there. Do you have a sabbatical story of your own? Or maybe you know someone whose experience could inspire others? Do reach out to us at Sabbatical Stories Podcast on Instagram or message me on LinkedIn. I'm Bex Thomas. And until the next time, take care of yourself, keep dreaming big, and remember, your sabbatical story is waiting to be written. Deep down, you try, dig deep, search wide.